Hi, this is Aaron Wilson. I'm at US Bank Stadium where the Texans had their first preseason game. Guys, it was the backup bowl. As you saw from my report before the game, that CJ Stroud would not play today and that Davis Mills would get the start. And that they would rest several starters. And that included the Nico Collins, the Titus Howards, Laken Tomlinson, Will Anderson Jr., Danielle Hunter, basically the entire secondary. No Derek Stingley Jr., no Kamari Lassiter, no Kalen Bullock. Of course, no C.J. Gardner-Johnson as he recovers from his knee injury. That is good news with that. DeMeco Ryans reiterated what I already reported with sources, that he will be back this season, and they are very grateful that it's not a more serious injury. But let's go through the game and kind of what happened, as you guys know, with the lineup. So you have no Nick Chubb, you have no Dalton Schultz, so it is a pared down group. But this was very important for the guys trying to, one, forge their role, two, show improvement, and three, of course, make the roster. So we'll go through a lot. And I kind of go starting with the guys that began the game. So Davis Mills, let's evaluate his performance. That is good play by a backup. Makes him look like one of the better backups, honestly. Top half of the backups in the NFL, in my opinion. 147.9 passer rating, 4 for 5. And he found John Mechie III, who also had a nice game, 18-yard pass. And then a rollout off play action, and I'm actually standing in the end zone. Right over there is where Braxton Berrios had a great catch and run. And Berrios showed some heart, a little toughness, not the biggest guy in the world, but he sure is quick. That was outstanding, and that's the kind of stuff that shows why he should make it not just as a return man, but as a reserve receiver. And I was impressed by Braxton Berrios. So we talked to Berrios after the game. He's very grateful to play that well after 1 year ago tearing his ACL in October. What a comeback from a torn ACL. So good job, Braxton Berrios, and also a good guy to talk with. Good interview. Okay, so we'll go through some of the other things. Dario Gamawale quietly moved the chains, has good vision. It's one of those guys that's just very hard to release. He was much more impressive than Jahar Jordan and Woody Marks. And to me, of the backups, until we get Dameon Pierce, Nick Chubb back on the field, Chubb is recovering well from a head injury, I'm told, and Dameon Pierce is ramping up. Maybe he does something in the Carolina game. We'll see if they feel like it's too soon or what they're going to do with Dameon. But he was here on the trip, and he's doing well. So in his recovery from the strained quadriceps. So offensive line, this is the debut of Ariante Ursary, and this is his old stomping grounds back here in the Twin Cities. He played for the Minnesota Golden Gophers. He was the Big Ten Conference Offensive Lineman of the Year. He had a little cheering section here. Looked very solid to me. Clean pocket. People were impressed, including DeMeco Ryans, with how they did in terms of pass protection. A clean pocket for Davis Mills. It got worse later, yeah. Sure, when you were Keaton Slovis and you were Graham Mertz, it was rough out there. But it wasn't for Mills. And I'm mostly, really clued in on what happened with guys that are even close to getting playing time. So, we'll stick with the offense. I thought Jake Andrews looked solid at center. It's interesting. He gets the start. Obviously, that shows it's an open competition between him and Jared Patterson, so that's not over with yet. And then you see Ed Ingram out there. You have Juice Scruggs playing some guard. And then, looking at what they were doing with the backups, probably the guy that struggled the most was Zach Thomas. False start and gave up a sack. Just could not handle a speed rush. And I think it was Gabriel Murphy just bolts into the backfield for a sack. So, that wasn't great. Okay, but looking at the offense and looking beyond Berrios and Mills, how about John Mechie III? He's been kind of quiet at camp. He wasn't quiet today. 5 catches on 7 targets, had about 50 yards. Thought he did good. I thought he looked really good. Good hands, talking with him afterward, and he's going to be heard from. He just increased his value. Who knows? Do I think a change of scenery would be good for John? Yeah, I do. I think that it would help him to have more of an opportunity. There's teams that could use a receiver like John Mechie. A game like today, that helps. Kind of showcases him a little bit. We'll see what it means. They started Jakob Johnson at fullback. I thought British Brooks made a great play on special teams. That was an excellent tackle by British, so, that's going to be a factor when they make these decisions, is the kicking game. Another guy made a play in the kicking game was Damon Arnett Jr. He was blocked. They kind of blocked him down to the ground. He jumped up, spun out of this guy's block, and he got a piece of the tackle. It showed a really good hustle. I thought that he held up well. It was his first NFL game in a long time because of all his off-field issues he's had. He's put them behind him, and I think he's doing a good job of just staying on that straight and narrow, focused path. So good to see from Damon Arnett. But yeah, going back to the offense, didn't really see the explosiveness you would hope for with Woody Marks. Just didn't see any real wiggle. I know that he's better than that, but just didn't show it in this setting. So maybe he'll flash more. It's his first game, all that kind of thing. Jaden Higgins, the top draft pick. To me, he's almost like their first-round draft pick. Okay, guys, he caught both passes thrown to him. He didn't really have a lot of opportunity to run anything or short passes, but did his job. Really sort of a pass-fail situation. He totally passed. Aced it, really. Jalen Noel also made some plays. Good run after the catch. Good power. Some of the things we've been talking about. Some of the things that he's been watching the Patriots guys do. So good on him. And then we'll go to defense. Casey Tuhill showed some pass rush. With the linebackers, to me, that was the real meat of what went on with the defense in terms of the real strength of the defense. EJ Speed, hard hits, he was sticking. I saw Jamal Hill with a good tackle for a loss. That was good. Jake Hansen making some good scrapes, pursuit angles to the football. Outstanding. That's what you need. Be tough calls with Jamal Hill and Jake Hansen when you're talking about this roster. Nick Neiman, very instinctive, very smart player, very sound in his technique. He can find the football. In the secondary, I thought Rush Yeast actually played a little bit better than MJ Stewart, but I feel like MJ Stewart is a more accomplished player, but Yeast needed to show something, and he did. I thought that was a credible performance by him, and helps him as he tries to make the team again. And then over at corner, Jalen Smith looked like he was doing a pretty good job covering. I saw some leaky coverage a couple times by D'Angelo Ross. He was an undersized corner, more of a special teamer. And then no real big lapses. I just think that you look at some of the things, some of the plays that Sam Howell was making, and then they were just having a pretty good day. JJ McCarthy was moving the football, but they were a bend but don't break outfit. They were pretty good. I thought Junior Tafuna made some plays. Undrafted rookie defensive lineman from Utah that I've talked about a few times. Senior Bowl guy, and just a very solid football player. Someone that I think has a good upside, and I can see him as a part of the practice squad in all likelihood. Because I don't know if there's going to be a spot for him in the 53. There's just so many players. So in terms of injury, Darrell Taylor went to the blue medical tent. It's on the other side of this field. Got checked out. Then he went inside, and he passed whatever he needed to pass. I don't know if it was a baseline test. There's no injury report. But he went back out there, and he played again. Even had actually a penalty, I think, for roughing the passer or something like that, I believe. So Darrell Taylor, he's okay. So not that I know of, no new injuries, and that's good news. And then let's talk about C.J. Gardner-Johnson. So, D'Amico Ryans reiterated what I reported with sources, that he is expected to play again this season. He'll be fine. And, D'Amico was pretty definitive that this is something where they kind of dodged a bullet with C.J. Gardner-Johnson. So good deal, good development with C.J. Gardner-Johnson. He'll play again. A lot of the guys were worried about him. I talked to Rush Yeast about that. I talked to a few of the other guys about C.J. Gardner-Johnson. And a good conversation with Damon Arnett Jr. As he tries to make the team. He's knocking off some rust. And this was a good performance by him in the sense of, he hadn't played a lot of football in a long time other than the UFL, which is not the same level as this. That's a different kind of league to play in. But he, held his own. And so that's a start. And I think the Texans are happy with him and happy with the kind of character he's showing. Improved character, obviously, from where he was. But, he's in a better place on and off the field. So good things happening with Damon Arnett Jr. And then, with the tight end group, Kate Stover, Brevin Jordan, all flashing, making some plays here and there. I look over at, linebacker, and just again, coming back to this, it was the standout on defense for the Texans. But the offensive line, big picture, probably the more encouraging aspect of it. But it wasn't like they were playing a bunch of world beaters. That said, Brian Flores has a good unpredictable defense. They're still running the same scheme, and they held their own. Over analysis of this backup bowl, isn't necessarily the biggest exercise, but it's what we have to talk about, guys. So I'm discussing this a little more than I even have to. Why? Because I want to get into depth with you all, and kind of setting a baseline for our season together here on the YouTube channel. And of course, there'll be more coverage on KPRC2 and www.click2houston.com. So I'm going to get to some writing exercising pretty soon, doing some writing, maybe gonna grab a little food, all those good things. So looking at where things stand now. Been out of town for a week. I'm going to reintroduce myself to my wife, Shannon, and she's been doing the thumbnails all week. Shout out to Shannon for the thumbnails and the moral support as I have been on the road for a little while, and I've had a little bit of planes, trains, and automobiles experience here and there, but grateful for it all. Good to be here in Minneapolis, a good city, the Twin Cities, and no Manny's for me. That's a nice steakhouse here. I'm not going to Manny's. I got to get up at 7. I got a 7 a.m. flight, so I got to go back. Then I've got work to do. I got television Sunday night, Sports Sunday, with me and Randy McElvoy, and we got a special guest, so that'll be fun. Looking forward to those conversations. And I would say with the next steps, so they'll practice Monday afternoon, then Tuesday, then Wednesday they'll have a joint practice with the Panthers. They'll then have a day off, and then they'll play the Panthers for a noon kickoff at NRG Stadium, the preseason home opener. And after that, a day off, and then next week after that we go to Detroit for a joint practice and then a preseason game with the Detroit Lions, one of the best football teams in the NFL, one of the most physical teams in the league, really a team built in the image of Dan Campbell. So it'll be fun to watch Bryce Young on the Texans practice field, and CJ and him are buddies. We'll do that story, of course. So a lot of exciting things coming up here at KPRC2, here on YouTube, Aaron Wilson Sport. Please watch, like, and subscribe. Guys, it is free. So is all of my content. If you want to tip me, of course, I won't tell you no, but I'm being serious. I won't tell you no, but I'm saying everything's free. There's no, nothing behind a paywall. You can watch everything I do, and that includes Instagram, Twitter, and of course here on the YouTube channel and on television at KPRC2. Guys, until next time, look forward to our next conversation, and I'm gonna click off here with my little clicker. We're gonna go home.